Let's get it.
Let's get it. All right. Welcome everybody to episode 3 of Things I Wish I Knew. Woo, we're really excited today. So, how did you want to start? You brought the topic up to me. So, how do you want to start this off?
Okay, you guys. So today we're going to talk about a topic that is a little bit different than dance, but is very important. And what
And
we're
it still ties into the rest of life, anyways, and things in dance. But yeah, go on.
and what we're going to talk about is meaningful relationships and how to organize your life in a way that these are the only relationships you have, meaningful, positive, and inspiring.
Absolutely, want to cultivate meaningful relationships. So, where do we want to start off on this part of the journey? Because I feel like there's a lot of ground to cover in meaningful relationships.
I feel like it starts with knowing yourself.
Okay.
Because when you know yourself and you know the sides of you that you do like and appreciate, then you recognize it in other people. And not only you recognize it, you also bring it out of people that you meet.
Right.
Because this is what you're familiar with and this is what you automatically look for.
Right. So, to take it though, step one is basically become aware of yourself. Get to know yourself a little bit better. Actually, that probably is the first step in trying to cultivate a meaningful relationship. You have to cultivate a meaningful relationship with yourself. So, and obviously, as you said, like once you kind of know that, you can bring that to other people. But how does one really start to cultivate that relationship with self?
Well, first, it starts with having that natural faith in the world first and opening your heart in a way that you are open to learning, because the only way to learn yourself is through other people and experiences and spending time with yourself. But you have to go through like certain experiences with people, but you have to always open your heart. You have to be open for learning. And sometimes people have fear, and that fear holds them back from even opening up in the first place.
Right. But I guess the thing that becomes problematic for people is that the fear comes from some of their experiences. Some people have experiences that are bad experiences, or I don't want to judge the experiences, but to the individual felt like a bad experience, in which case that has probably taught them fear. So I love the point that you said. I think it's a balance of having experiences and alone time. I think the experience is really crucial, because I was thinking about the saying "time heals all." But the truth is, time doesn't heal all, because I know some people that are still stuck in their old experiences and they haven't moved forward and grown. And that has shown me that it's not the time that passes, it's the experiences. If you go out and have other experiences, there will be some challenging experiences and hurtful ones for sure along the way. But if you continue to go out and put yourself out and have other experiences, some of which will be good, you can really get past some of the pain of the old experiences. And I think the alone time, what's important about alone time, it's not just about alone time. I think it's about being self-reflective in that alone time, or meditating, whatever it is that really grounds you in that alone time. Because I think some people can spend time alone mindlessly on their phone, watching things on YouTube, or even maybe the best intentions, listening to an audio book or a podcast and try to better themselves. But if you don't actually have that alone time to sit with yourself, ask yourself the questions: why you did what you did, how you feel about what you did, and how you want to move forward, it's really difficult to really grow, because you're not being self-reflective. And it's definitely, I agree with you that it's a combination of both. You have to have alone time to reflect on your thoughts and your feelings and understand. I was just listening to this on an Oprah podcast that was a rebroadcast of an old episode, and they were talking about the conscious self, and is that you are the witness to the thoughts. You are not the thoughts, and you are not the feelings, because the thoughts and feelings are fleeting. They're ever changing. They're always moving. but you are the person that is aware of those things. You're the person that watches those things. And when you can detach who you are from the person that has just these thoughts and these feelings, there's a bit more acceptance and I guess a little more self-control. And you can really learn to listen to yourself better. Because I think one thing I've had a struggle with was intuition. Because I think there was a time, especially when you're young and you're kind of going through a phase or even a heartbreak, intuition comes to battle with like selfish desires. And the selfish desires are the immediate gratification, the things I want to do to feel good now. I want to eat this, drink that, smoke, do whatever to feel good now. Whereas, I just kind of lost my train of thought.
It happens when you be speaking that real shit.
Yeah, you be going with it. Oh my God.
But you said something very, very beautiful there that I really, really agree with, is that you are not your thoughts. You are the one
Yeah.
who is aware of your thoughts. And it's so true. If you think about it, the thoughts come to you, they come to your mind, but you are the one who is always here. And you're always going to be here. And it's the same with your experiences. You can look in at experience that was happened to you a year ago and talk about it and talk about how it affected you emotionally, but there's still a you that is aware of what is happening to you and what you think about it, that has zero attachment emotionally to these things. It is just
Right.
simply aware.
Yeah. And okay, so I came back to what the thought was. It was the immediate gratification versus the intuition. And there's so many times where it's like you'll have that intuitive thought, should I do this? Should I not do this? And oftentimes I've now come to realize to myself, whenever I ask that question, I have to really think about that a little bit longer, because most often, every time I ask myself, should I have done this before going out or doing something, it always comes back to, yeah, I should have did that. Or if the question comes up, should I not do this? If like whatever the phrase of the question is first, it usually is that train of thought to like go with it, because my immediate satisfaction would say, I don't have time to go back, or nah, it'll be all right. Whatever, it's okay. Like have that little moment of laziness where it's just like that's the immediate satisfaction, the time I saved or the energy I saved, versus the intuition of saying, I should have listened or done what I thought I should have done. And I come to those places, and I think for people to come to the conclusion that if you find yourself dealing with your intuition versus your immediate satisfaction, at least for me, I didn't trust my intuition because I kept moving on the immediate satisfaction. And then I realized, well, if I feel a certain way about it, if I felt a way, if the senses were going off, I do the thing, and then I feel a certain way about it, the intuition was on the whole time, and it was telling me, you don't necessarily do this, or at least to rethink the situation at the moment. And then I still chose, like now it's coming to that understanding. It's like, okay, when I have that thought, to really go with that intuition rather than let me go for what's the immediate satisfaction of the moment.
Right, and that's very true. And the beautiful thing about it is that you took action to go through these experiences, and to even at times where you didn't listen to your intuition and you went through an experience that wasn't super pleasing for you, and you learned about the things that you don't like. That basically taught you more of what you do
Right,
like and
right,
what
right.
you do want.
Right.
And it puts you at a closer relationship with your intuition.
Absolutely.
Because you gotta not listen to it sometimes, go through that in order to know how it feels.
And I
in
think
comparison.
that's all of this is learning about yourself, is learning to become aware of that, is to learn to become aware of the things that you don't like, because there's so many things that a lot of us don't like that we tolerate. And once you become aware of the things that are maybe necessary to tolerate, like we put up with a whole lot more than we have to. And we have the capability of bringing joy into whatever it is that we're doing. So it's really on us, and I feel like you have to learn that awareness of like what you like and what you don't like, and then what you don't like, that gives you the more learning opportunities of, okay, what don't I like about this? Why don't I like it? How could I avoid this? How could I respond better? How could I, like, I know for me now, I try to, it's not an always thing, but I know that whenever negative energy comes at me, maybe if somebody's upset or very passionate in something, to not be reactive to that energy, because sometimes it could feel like it's an attack when it's not an attack. And I'm like, I've learned that if I can just be patient and kind of let whoever's energy go past, they usually come back around and are thankful, appreciative, and even will forgive the excessiveness of their energy. But if I had reacted in the moment, it could have blown up and gone a whole different way. And so I learned that with myself. I'm like, okay, have the patience. You obviously, I know that I don't like people yelling or throwing angry energy at me, but if you can learn to be calm in it and let it pass you, you can see that it's most often it's not personal.
Right. That's very, very
And
true.
then you can have a better relationship with that person once, it also depends on the other person. This relationships have to be a two-way street between give and take and growth. And it does work better when, if you're capable of responding, the other adult is mature enough to see their reactions and then change their responses. But those are all things to learn along the journey, like how you learning that what your reaction is and how you feel about something versus learning how to respond to something.
Right. And this is a very great point in speaking about how to have meaningful relationship in your life. It's all about the way you react, because you can't control the other person. You will never be able to get in their consciousness and how they experience the world and how they experience themselves. So you're only in control of yourself, and that's the beauty of it. The way you are
Right.
aware of what happens to you affect the outcome. And like Shaboob said, when you stop and have that pause before you react, and you remember that you don't have to react right away, because then again, you're not your thoughts, you are the awareness. And if you just wait, you will know exactly what to do and how to respond to that person. Whenever you are in doubt, whenever you're not sure how to approach a person, always do the loving thing. Always choose kindness, and it will never let you down. And you're going to see that even at first you can put a title on a person, and sometimes we judge people,
Right.
and it
For
naturally
sure.
our mind does that because it can't help but do that. But at the same
Right.
time, people, human beings, are not just one thing, one personality. We are like the ocean. We're always in movement. We're always progressing. We're
Right.
always growing. So
Right.
I can bring out of you something that you didn't even know. And that's the beautiful
Right.
thing that meaningful relationship can help you with. But first, always like train your mind to choose the loving thing, to be still, to not react right away, to not answer right away. Sit, wait, observe yourself, observe your state of mind, and observe your state of being. And if you are calm and you feel 100% complete with your answer or with your next decision with that person, then do it. But if you have the slightest doubt about it, just wait.
Absolutely. I think I'm gonna. This is obviously we're talking about relationships, so I'm gonna leave aside the competitiveness of men in business. But if you're trying to have a good relationship with somebody, yeah, for sure, you want to try to have an open, collaborative spirit with them, and not react out of anger. Now, it doesn't mean that you're not going to get angry with people or they won't piss you off, because it's life. It's going to happen. But if you could learn to respond with compassion and respect, you will, I think, deepen that relationship. And I think it comes down to, at least in relationships with others, it comes down to having patience and having the ability to be intimate or vulnerable, depending on who the party is. If it's a significant other, I think you'd have to have both intimacy as well as vulnerability. If it's a relationship with another individual, you have to have the vulnerability, because the vulnerability through time is what builds trust. Like, trust is built. You can maybe be a certain individual that's open off the bat, and if you're trusting off the bat, congratulations. But I think, as most individuals will attest to by a certain age, that trust becomes a very precious thing that is really given to a select few to be trustworthy of the things you have to share. And you have to, it's really a give and take, and it's a search. You have to find who is going to be that person, because it won't be everybody. You can't be vulnerable with everybody. It's like building a house, or building a wall brick by brick. You just have to keep laying each piece and continue to do so. But understand that the house can get destroyed a whole lot faster than it can be built. So you have to really take into consideration how strong yet fragile trust is.
Right.
Because when two people trust each other, oh my God, the strength there is amazing, but it takes so much time to get to that. But it's fragile. There are boundaries, and if the boundaries are crossed and someone loses trust, and then you'll be lucky if you get the opportunity to try to rebuild the trust, because it's a difficult thing. So in cultivating meaningful relationships, you're gonna have to really learn to be kind of selective on who you are able to approach with the more vulnerable things. But I think, like, you got to test that out in the waters. You got to see who you're capable of having the deeper conversations with, who is open to other ideas of thought, or even if they're on the same idea of thought, maybe they're deeper into that train of thought. So it's a give and take. I think one of the hardest things for a lot of individuals is knowing who to trust, especially after you get burned in some kind of way. If you've ever been betrayed or cheated on, or any of the heartbreaks that come in social interactions, like, it can be difficult. You just have to learn that everybody goes through their own things, and it's your part of the journey to find who your tribe is.
Right.
It's not always going to be right away. It's not going to be automatic. And if you do have loving friends and family off the bat, cherish them, show gratitude towards them, because that's not the case for everybody. And the older you get, the more you realize how precious relationships are.
Right. So I want to highlight something that you said, and how trust is important in order to be able to build those meaningful relationships, whether you have them since the day you was born, or whether you build it as you grow. And the beauty about trust is that the more you trust people, the more you learn about what you do want and what you want to attract in people. Because at first you have to get hurt, and you have to be in situations where people let you down.
Yeah.
And
You have to be disappointed to know what you don't want, what you don't like, what the boundaries are. Yeah.
Exactly, and having that trust in yourself to be able to handle anything that is being thrown at you, because a lot of time people say that, I give my heart and I always end up being heartbroken, or I always end up being with the same type of person. You know what I mean? But it's just a chance for you to heal. The universe is always going to give you a type of personality or a type of cycle that you have to heal within yourself.
Right.
But
So
you have to trust in the first place. And every time, nothing that happened to you is you, so it doesn't have to hold you back from trusting again, because at the end of the day, you are not your experiences. And if you fail, you can always get back up. So continue trusting in people, and applying that wisdom and your experience from your past relationships and the times that you got hurt, because thank God for those lessons. But still trust. Don't close your heart. Nobody is important enough for you to change who you really are. You know what I mean?
Right. And I think something you said there, though, about if you're kind of going through the repetitive pattern of this always happens to me, this is where we go back to what we said earlier about having the reflective moments. You have to, if your experiences are repeating, you need to reflect on you and see what it is that you're doing to attract that.
Right.
You are talking to the same type of people. You are putting yourself in the same places. It's on you to be aware of what your patterns are that keep that around.
Right.
Because once you become aware of what your patterns are and the things that you tolerate and don't tolerate, you'll see the environment change. You won't go to the same places anymore. You'll go do other things and you'll realize like, okay, I don't want that. So you have to be reflective on your patterns. If it's the same thing over and over again, if you're going through the same relationships, you have to see what the projection is what are you doing? Because not everybody in the world is the same. There's 7 billion people in the world. And even if you break it down to the 4 personality types, they're all a different combination of things. If you're falling into the same people, it's because that's on you. That is on you then to see what are you doing? What am I coming around? What am I putting out there? What am I attracting towards me? That's on you.
Right. And the good first step for you to start in doing that inner work would be to try and just reflect on the people around you and the relationships that you currently have, and see if there's any person that makes you feel uncomfortable or angry, because anything that you're going to see in another person that makes you feel that type of anger is just showing you something that you need to heal within yourself. Nobody would ever bring out anger out of you unless it's there already.
Right, exactly. And so you have to find that in yourself, address that in yourself. And if you notice that somebody else is bringing it, then maybe that's on you to try to flip the energy. Because you are in control of how you feel.
Right.
And if somebody triggers that for you, you are in control of your response to the trigger. So it's still on you, and you got to bring that energy to the other person to bring them up, because you see that energy is contagious. And if you have negative energy in you and someone has it in them, it's going to bring it out of you. So you got to combat that. Come to them with the good stuff and bring them the good energy. And if they're not capable of it, then you go somewhere else. I mean, aside from the people you live with, you really control who you talk to. You really control who you listen to.
Right.
It's on you. You control that. And it's also what you bring to it. Sometimes people are a reflection of what you're bringing.
All the time.
And if they're bringing out, like as you said, if somebody's bringing out the negative energy in you, it's in you. So that's what you're bringing. So you got to bring good to it. Like if you're going to bring good energy, you're going to get good energy back.
Exactly.
It's a pretty simple thing. And don't get me wrong, there's going to be times you have great energy, you're having a good day, and someone else is having a shitty day. And maybe their energy is pretty big in their shit mode. That you still control you.
Right.
And you have no idea how many times I've had a friend or someone tell me how quickly their day changed over something small, over someone's energy just being nice enough to say hi, to help, to give a little something extra. Like the smallest little thing really switched someone's energy up completely. And it's just proof to show that it's capable and it's still on you. Like what you bring to the relationship is still a reflection of the relationship. If it's always negative and bad energy, then that's what you're bringing to it as well.
Right. Looking within and seeing how you are the source to everything that is happening to you.
Right.
And another point that leads me to the next important point to remember when you work on having these meaningful relationships in your life is noticing the feelings that you attach to every experience that happens to you. Because it's not necessarily what is happening on the outside. It's not necessarily what the other person has said to you or what they did to you. Is the emotion you're going to attach to that experience that's going to determine the outcome. So you can get hurt by a person can say to you something that is like, you would never say that to anybody else. But as soon as that thought rises and your mind says, oh, they got me messed up, I'm gonna, you know what I mean? Answer that thought and say, thank God for this lesson. Thank you for this experience, and thank you that now I'm learning more of what I don't like, which teaches me more of what I do like. So now I know myself better because I know what makes me feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, and I think what you just said there kind of ties into something what we said earlier about when you feel those things and it make you feel a certain way, don't react from those negative places. Like, those things are going to happen. You're going to be challenged. in the moment, if you could reserve yourself from reacting from that place and try to, react from a place of hope, faith, love, or positive energy, you can get to a later reflection where you can associate that experience with gratitude to that led you to where you are. Because it is a difficult thing, it isn't almost an automatic thing that we label the experiences that happen in our life, because that's how we need to make sense of them. And I was reading, I believe it was Think Like a Monk by Jay Shetty, and it was one of the things is trying to have detachment, because that is attachment is one of the common causes of fear. We're so fearful because we're so attached to things, and once you can learn to be detached from them, especially the emotion of the experience, you can learn to see the experience from a different perspective, and then that way the experience doesn't necessarily hold you down in any way, because that's a big problem for a lot of people is they'll have a negative experience with somebody, and that experience will replay in their head in such a way that they question who they are.
Right, they identify
They're-
with that experience.
And exactly, they'll identify with that experience, that pain, and then they sit and ruminate with it. And again, you are not your experiences. And if you could reserve yourself from judging the experience and labeling the experience, and try to be reflective of the experience, you can see the lesson of it and see, again, you can learn the most from yourself is like, I didn't like any of this. I didn't like any of that I put up with. I didn't like any of that was going on. I wasn't really treated with respect. I don't want to do any of that. I don't want to be around that. Okay. And then you learn to make the conscious decision from, okay, I am in control of who I'm around, my energy, my time, who has access to all of that. And then you go find the people who will respect and appreciate that. But you got to bring that good energy to it.
Right, it's very true. Something to always keep in mind and always remember is to respond from your awareness and not from the emotion. And the
that's so
beautiful,
hard.
yes, and the beautiful thing about the awareness, the one in you that observes everything, is the one that observed everything that you've been through. It knows you so well. And it has no attachment emotionally to these experiences. So when you respond from the emotion, it just shows that you don't know yourself enough. So spend time with yourself. Spend time with yourself and meditate and do the things that make you feel happy, because then you will know, you will be familiar with that awareness, and then these emotions and the way you want to react immediately to a person, though these things won't trigger you, because you remember that they are not you. You are the observer. Connect to that awareness, and it's the same thing, that it has no sense of time. Ever since, even when you was a child, and that inner voice that speaks to you, that pure awareness, it's always been there, and it's always going to be there. And
Right.
every person that comes to your life is just another lesson and another opportunity to grow and learn about that beautiful awareness in you. Learn more about that. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And like you said, like not identifying with these experiences and not replaying it in your head, or if somebody said a mean word to you, don't be stuck on the word. Just look beyond it. Just look beyond it. What is it teaching you?
Right. And other thing is, you could also learn a lot from the negative emotions if you become aware. What is the
Yes.
jealousy telling you? The jealousy might be that you really want this thing that somebody else has. If you're so jealous, that means that you really care about it.
Right.
So
Why do
maybe
you feel like you don't have it?
Exactly. So maybe you need to go do the steps to put you in the arena to go get that. The anger, the disrespect, all of the things, if you can learn not to react from it and see what it is, why, you can find what your boundaries are and really learn to cultivate like self-love, a good place for yourself. And then from there, the way you treat yourself, you're going to have other relationships that reflect that, and then you can cultivate good relationships.
Right, and I want to say something in addition to that. What you said is so true. Self-love, and one thing that we have to remember that a lot of people don't know is that our natural state is love. You don't have to do anything outside of you to find love. You don't need to meet a certain person to find what love is. All you have to do is be still, know yourself. Like we mentioned, spend time with yourself. And the more you know yourself, the more you are familiar with the feeling of your own being. And you're going to learn that in this present moment, when you at peace and you quiet your thoughts and your mind, your natural state is love. You naturally want to help another person. It naturally feels better to forgive for a reason. There's a reason our brain is wired in that way, that when we forgive and when we choose love and when we do the things that make us happy, it releases these chemicals of joy. That's not a coincidence. It's supposed to be that way.
Yeah. And I think if you really want to learn to cultivate self-love, is really learn to enjoy the things you enjoy by yourself.
Yes,
Like-
thank you. Say that again.
Like, if you learn to enjoy the things you enjoy by yourself, that's your self-love. Like, listening to the music by yourself, your favorite song turned all the way up that you can sing it word for word, dance it around the house, putting your favorite TV show on by yourself, not having to care if anybody else watching it with you is liking it, paying attention, like doing the things you enjoy, you legitimately enjoy by yourself. You really learn to cultivate, like, man, if you have fun when you're by yourself, that's self-love.
Right.
Like, the moment you can just let go and just have fun by yourself, that's the joy. That's the energy right there.
And very true. And that's what attracts these meaningful relationships.
And then
to
you bring that to the other people.
That completeness.
And
that
then you bring it to the other people.
Yeah,
Like, you
'cause
take it to other people.
You don't need it from them. You don't need another person.
Exactly.
And that what attracts the people to
Yep.
have
And
the
then
best
you
interest.
feel good. You want to give it out anyways. You want to find those people that enjoy it and want to take it in, and you give it out to them. Like,
Right.
you have the joy. Like, when you're in joy or feeling in love, and it doesn't have to be like in love romantically, when you just feel filled with love, you want to express it and give it out. And I think so often is that some of us struggle with feeling that by ourselves, and then we struggle with the environment because everyone else is feeling the same way about themselves. No one's giving it to each other. You have to find it for yourself. Find the ones that not you can give it to that will receive it and reciprocate. That's how you have the meaningful relationships, is that you're filled with it, you want to give it to somebody, and they feel the same way that they reciprocate. Like, you never have a deep, serious conversation with somebody. It can only work with two people being in the conversation, being so in tune to the conversation. Like, yeah, you're right. And that happens when you're in it. Like, you have to be in tune. So a lot of it keeps coming down to, like, I feel like it's a circle of things. It's kind of like all the same things stacked on top of each other: self-love, self-compassion,
All of it is
boundaries,
inner
and then you bring that out to others. Because, as we said, your relationships are a reflection of you. So you have to become aware of what it is you're putting out.
Right. And it's not that hard to observe these things too.
Right.
In the first place.
Right.
Do you want to know what is it that you're giving in a relationship? Do you want to know what is it that you're getting back? The first thing is paying attention to your habits of thinking, your habits of action throughout the day. Are you a person that, how do you eat? Do you nurture your body?
Your habits, what you consume.
Do you nurture your mind?
A saying I have, or I don't know if it's a saying, but something I think a lot lately is that your experiences, your exposure, and your environment influence you.
Yes.
And you influence others by your action, your compassion, and your energy. Like, experience, exposure, environment will influence you. The things that you feel, the things that you see, the things that are around you are going to have an impact on you. So you have to control that as much as you can, if you can. But the inner control is what your actions are, your compassion towards others, and then the energy you bring to the things that you do. And those three things that you have will then be the experience, the exposure, and the environment for those around them. And then it becomes this interdependent relationship where all parties are trying to be joyful and happy with themselves, and then they can exchange it and give it to each other. I think one thing, though, I want to say about personal relationships I think would be helpful for everybody is, like, kind of as we're talking about understanding yourself, knowing yourself, becoming aware of yourself, learn the little things like the love languages. Those are layers of understanding yourself. Like, as we talk about, like, understand the things that you like and you dislike, what's a boundary, what's not a boundary, what's okay. Understand what your love language is, because that's what's going to be helpful in the kind of like transactional part of the relationships. Because the way that one individual receives love may not be the way one individual gives love. You've heard of the love languages?
I have, but I'm not super familiar with
Right.
it.
Well, I'm not the biggest expert on them. So, but briefly, I believe there's 5 love languages. There's words of affirmation, physical touch, quality time, gifts, and acts of service. Now, everybody has all 5 on the list. They're just valued differently. Some people value physical touch a lot. Some people don't value it as much. Like, everybody has their own order to the list. And now the next thread of it is that not only do you have your own way of receiving love, you have your own way of giving love. Like, for me, I can probably do without too much quality time with a lot of people, but I do know that to certain individuals, quality time is important. So I make it a point to give that person quality time. Now, again, I'm quite okay by myself a lot of the time. I don't value quality time as much on my receive list as much as like acts of service. I'm huge on acts of service. If someone does something for me, I am like in forever gratitude. And I mean, don't get me wrong. I've had a debate with somebody saying that the only way you get to anything on those on the list is through quality time. But everyone values things differently.
Right. Everybody has a different form of how they express in what they
How
feel.
not only how they express, but how they want to receive it.
Right.
Because some people can be okay with gifts, and other people would rather you go do the dishes. You know, it's a subtle difference, but it's huge to the individual that you're with.
Right. And in order to solve that in the first place, obviously you're not going to meet a person that is identical to you, and everybody
Right.
have a different way of feeling and experiencing and what they interested in receiving back. And it comes down to being a good communicator.
Yeah.
And communication is
Yeah.
everything, because you will always meet people who are different than you, but the better communicator that you are, the more you can grow and the faster it happens to you. And in order to be a great communicator, I feel like an important thing to work on and make sure that you have is feeling comfortable with yourself and knowing, again, connect to that awareness, knowing that you always gonna be good. Even if a person is coming to you with a different language or they have a different expectation, it's okay, because at the end of the day, this person is just another version of you. So just give it a chance and communicate and be open to listen to these things, and knowing that, you know, in the first place, that person is in your life and you are in relationship with them because they have the best interest for you. You know, and then you're open to communication. Now, if you're not sure if this person has the best interest for you, then maybe you should wait a little bit and be still and see if it's something that you want to invest your energy in,
That's
your
what,
time in.
what we said earlier about knowing, and it's like trial and error to figure out who is deserving of this, or if you want to invest more in that relationship to further along. But I will say, communication is huge. And I think a simple but very powerful tactic is trying to communicate through your feelings. Now, if you are extremely upset and emotional, I'd say walk away until you can come back to talk about it without being as upset.
Without being attached to it.
Without being attached to it. But if you can, even if you are in the motion feeling upset, if you can learn to try to discuss what you're feeling rather than try to attack or throw that energy on the other person, you can really do a lot for your relationship. Because if you're feeling a certain kind of way, especially negative energy, for the most part, everyone wants to just have some kind of level of acceptance or someone to listen to them so that they can just say what they need to say and get it out. But if you can learn to say what you need to say, or just try, like you're just trying to say it, like it's like, look, I'm upset right now. I'm not necessarily angry at you. I'm upset at the situation. I'm upset for, what occurred, whatever. If you could learn to communicate through your feelings, you'll have a better chance of having compassion from the other person, because again, everybody is responsive or responds or reacts to energy. And if you get into a heated conversation with anybody, they usually shut off to what you're listening to, and all they feel is that energy. So they'll just attack back. And if you could learn to not do that, you can, and try to communicate through the feelings, you can really save the relationship from going to a very negative place. Because people are people. Everybody wants to feel appreciated, accepted, respected, loved, needed, desired, on both ends. So even if you're a person that's like, I need someone to listen to me, the person that's listening also wants to feel appreciated for the fact that they're listening.
Right, and hold it right there. Notice what you said. Is you want to feel appreciated and respected and loved.
Yeah.
I feel like where it falls is that a lot of people don't know what they want in the first place. And
Yep.
when you don't know what you want, you're going to get into relationships that are meant to teach you more of what
Or
you
you know
want.
what? I'll say this. No, they do. They know that they want those things. They just don't know which things it is that make them feel that way.
It's subconsciously.
Right, but it's kind of go back to that love language and those things. I want to feel love, appreciated, respected, and all those things. But most people don't know for themselves what it is that makes them feel that way. What makes you feel loved? When do you feel most loved? Most people really can't answer the question honestly. When do you feel most loved?
Because they don't know themselves.
Exactly.
They don't know that
that's
awareness.
And you have to go back to those things. I feel most loved when my significant other boils water for me, or takes out the trash without me asking, or does the dishes. Is the little thing, or when someone gives me the words of affirmations, or when someone does this. Answer the question for yourself: when do you feel most loved? And then you can figure out how to communicate that to others. Because as you said, it's a big problem for people, is that they do know they want to feel loved and respected, but they don't know what it is that makes them feel loved and respected.
Yes, it's
They know what makes them feel disrespected, but people don't communicate, it makes me feel great when you do this. It makes me feel great when you really listen to me and or allow me to speak.
You're right. I feel like there's a higher level to it too. I feel like where it lies, it's first not knowing what you want from yourself.
Yeah.
It mainly means that you feeling like that you need to do something outside of you to have something in the first place, That expectation of another person, that's where you set yourself for disappointment in the first place. Because why would
Absolutely.
you need
Oh.
another person to do something to make you feel a certain emotion?
Oh, man.
They have absolutely nothing to do with who you really are.
This is another deep dive, though, going into expectations. Because
But
that's
that's
so
where
true.
communication is.
Absolutely.
Because how many times people come to arguments and they don't know what they want to get out of that conversation. They just
Yeah.
want to be heard.
Yeah.
They just want to hurt the other person. But how many people have the intention, they already said it in their heart before they spoke. I already
Right.
decided that my intention from this is peace, and I want to make right with this person,
Right.
and I care about that person.
Right.
Beyond whatever might be arguing about, I want the best for this
Right.
person, and I have faith in that. In that.
I mean,
belief.
that would be the ideal situation. I think the realistic situation that a lot of us come across is the unspoken, unrealistic expectations that each person has.
And I feel like, yeah, you gotta stop and wait and see what expectations do you usually
Right.
set, and why do you
Why?
set those
Yes.
expectations?
Because the
Why?
expectations are a projection of your past experiences that you have to be aware of. And then you have to learn, again, what we said, communicate. If you don't communicate what you expect, I mean, truth be told, you really should just learn to let go of expectations of other people. But if you don't communicate, the other person will never know.
Right.
We don't read minds.
Yes, and thank you for saying that, because being able to communicate, it basically means that you have a good relationship with yourself.
Right.
And that awareness and the one who experiences these emotions, it's almost like two people. And first, that inner communication within yourself, it's like before you communicate to the outer world, communicate here inside and talk to yourself, have that inner convo like, all right, what's making you feel uncomfortable? What can I do to make it better? Literally, talk to yourself in your head, what can I do to make it better? And then just take that action. And a lot of people don't do that inner communication, so they don't
Yeah.
realize that they are okay right now. And it's just how they're going to react. They want to
Yeah.
react right away.
I will say that, especially with the talking to yourself thing, I've noticed for myself that if I speak out loud to myself, I am 100 times nicer to myself than if I'm speaking to myself quietly in my head. If I'm in my head, the odds are it becomes a negative voice, a negative judgment, and I'm using a very negative language. The moment I speak out loud, and mind you, it's already funny enough to speak out loud to yourself.
Say the last sentence. You
It's
said
already funny enough to speak out loud to yourself. With my nickname being Shaboobs, I call myself Boobs. So when I speak out loud to myself, it's even funnier. But when I do that, because of that, it allows me to speak to myself kinder and speak to myself the way that I would speak to a friend. Because I notice for many of us, when, again, like we talked about, having the relationship with self, if you have a negative relationship with yourself and you're in your head all the time saying negative things to yourself, it can get really difficult to get out of that. So I found that when I speak out loud, I'm not going to say those things out loud. I'm really
Right.
not. I'm not
'Cause
going to say.
It makes you
Yeah,
observe it.
exactly.
Notice what he said. He said, I say my thoughts out loud. And it helps him. It makes him automatically observe what is it that he's saying and thinking. And that's what a lot of people don't do. They don't observe. You can choose. You have two options. Either you're going to connect to your awareness, the one who observes what you actually think, or the actual thought/emotion.
Yeah.
You can speak from
Yeah.
both sides, but make the right decision. Like Shaboob said,
Right.
I wouldn't talk like that to a friend. So why would
Right.
you talk like that to yourself?
Exactly. Exactly. Like if you have to, if when it comes to the relationship with yourself, you have to talk to yourself in a positive way. And if it helps to speak out loud to yourself when you're by yourself, then do it. Like, mental health is really on you. You have to do the things to bring joy to your life.
Right.
So it really is on you. And then it starts with you. And then the more that it grows and you grow yourself and your consciousness and grow the others around you, you can really cultivate good relationships and have a good environment with people around you.
Right. You want to talk to yourself, and you can practice here in downtown LA. A lot of people walking the street and talking to themselves. You're going to
Absolutely.
match with a view.
Absolutely.
But yeah, we're running out of time. So I just want to say thank you, Shaboobs, for saying these
For sure.
amazing notes and from talking from your personal experiences. That was really, really dope. And thank you guys for watching.
Appreciate you. Appreciate you. Thank you guys so much. Have a great day. Bye.
Let's go. Success.